Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. My name is Tamer Shemri. I'm an associate professor of health outcomes and the president of Middle East chapter. I welcome all of you, and I'm happy today to facilitate the following two conferences on behalf of the Asia region. Thank you to all of you for being here with us today, and we hope that all of you and your families are safe during this this is difficult time in COVID-19 pandemic. Today, on the behalf of the International Society of Pharmacovigilance, we're really happy to please and welcome all of you to the second edition of the ISoP Patient Safety Day. That this event will be held in the 2 days, today and also tomorrow, 16th and 17th of September. As majority of you, all of you know that the WHO, World Health Organization, has created or established the Patient Safety Day on 17th September every year. This has happened like 2 years ago to increase the public engagement in healthcare safety, and also to promote the global action and to reduce the avoidable harm in healthcare settings. So this is an option this is an aim to all of us as healthcare professionals, people working in regulatory, pharma, hospitals, and everywhere. Every year, the WHO have a specific theme for the patient safety, and this year is the safe maternal and newborn care, because we know this population really needs a lot of care, need a lot of focus. So ISoP, I support this idea once it started to promote the patient safety, especially in medication use. And we include in ISoP more relevant topics around medication safety for promoting of the global action to prevent and reduce medication error risk. Please join us. And we have different sessions today and tomorrow. And before we start going to our program, please listen to the president of the ISoP, Mara Harrison. She will address some of the few words to all of you. Please listen to her.
Welcome to this webinar organised by the International Society of Pharmacovigilance for World Patient Safety Day 2021. My name is Mira Harrison-Woolrich and I'm the president of ISoP. Our professional society is a worldwide organisation with several hundred members working in pharmacovigilance. Our aim is to promote the safe use of pharmaceutical products in all countries. World Patient Safety Day was established by the WHO in 2019, and it's marked on the 17th of September each year. It's an important day for ISoP because it promotes patient safety as a global public health priority. Every year, millions of patients die from an adverse event, and many of these are related to pharmaceutical products. This year, with the continuing COVID-19 pandemic, global awareness of medicines and vaccine safety has been extremely high. The everyday work of those of us in pharmacovigilance has made international headlines on a regular basis. ISoP members work in very many different sectors, from drug development, medicines regulation, academia, to pharmaceutical companies. And for all of us, the end point of our work is patient safety. Every issue analysed and discussed is meaningless unless we consider how it impacts on the patient themselves using medicines in their own environment. Drug safety issues also affect the family and friends, including children and carers of patients using medicines. I'd encourage you to think about this broader holistic approach as you watch this webinar today. The WHO theme for World Patient Safety Day this year is maternal and newborn health. So please remember this because it is especially relevant. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you enjoy this webinar that we've made for World Patient Safety Day. We hope you find it interesting and informative. If you work in pharmacovigilance and you'd like to join ISoP, please have a look at our website, isoponline.org, and consider making a membership application. We would welcome you in joining our professional society so we can all work together towards improving patient safety worldwide.
Thank you, Mara. This was Mara Harrison, the president of ISoP, and she's always with other ISoP board, executive committee, and members, always supporting the patient safety everywhere. Thank you, Mira. So, and thank you for all of you to your attention. I also would like to invite all of you to participate. You're experts, you're people working in this area. You have, I'm sure you have, many of you have social media platform. We have different hashtag. You will see this hashtag with the during the presentation by Dr. Hoda and Dr. Sameh, but I will just mention them quickly. For example, ISoP Online PSD 2021, ISoP Medication Safety, ISoP Med-ER, ARR, hashtag World Patient Safety Day. So use this in not express your knowledge, disseminate the knowledge among our people, because they really need this. And please, if you have a picture about this event or any event or anything related to your work about medication safety, please use this hashtag and disseminate, because our people, our community, our patients really need this help. Believe me, you cannot imagine. All people, all community, they will need it. All patients will need it. One day, all of us will be a patient, and we need help. So now let me introduce one of the best people in the area of patient safety, Professor Hoda Sofiani. Dr. Hoda Sofiani is specialized in pharmacology, toxicology, and also she has a PhD in health vigilance. Dr. Sofiani will present her conference in the COVID-19 vaccine and patient safety. And we're really glad that Dr. Sofiani is also part of the ISoP Middle East chapter scientific committee. Since 2007, she was working in pharmacovigilance activity, focusing on case analysis, causality assessment, signal detection, risk minimization action. Since 2008, she was involved in different training in pharmacovigilance development projects in collaboration with World Health Organization Monitoring Medicine Project. There is a center, especially in Morocco, for that. Also with the Absalom Monitoring Center and the Moroccan Pharmacovigilance Center to promote pharmacovigilance activity in Africa and the MENA region, also to develop a new tool to manage adverse reaction. Since 2014, Dr. Sofiani is a member of ATC DDD WHO Working Group. So I will invite you to participate actively in this session, discussion, ask anything you want. So if you have any question, please put them in the chat, put them in the left, write anything you want. This is just for like to share experience. We'll be responding in some of these according to our schedule if we have time, and hopefully we'll have time. And also we'll be collect all the questions. We will answer you, promise to answer all the questions, and will be published in our website, isoponline.org. Without further ado, I will stop talking. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Hoda Sofiani. Dr. Hoda.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamer, for the presentation. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be today with you to represent the WHO Collaborating Center in Morocco and also the ISoP Middle East chapter in this celebration of this important Patient Safety Day. So I will try to share my presentation, to share my slides. Okay. Is this okay?
Well, that you need to change the screen because you're sharing the view of the Gmail. So okay, you can close the sharing and choose the presentation instead.
Okay. So, oh. Okay. Is it okay now?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm very happy to be with you today to celebrate this Patient Safety Day. I will talk about the COVID-19 vaccination and how to improve patient safety during this particular period of worldwide vaccination. During my presentation, we will see after a few words about the context of COVID-19 and some concept on patient safety and pharmacovigilance, how we can improve patient safety during this COVID-19 vaccination. And I will end with a brief information about the Moroccan experience in this field since the start of this vaccination in Morocco. So talking about the context, in this pandemic, we are living an unprecedented situation of health crisis, and the virus, we know that the virus spread very quickly, causing an increased mortality and morbidity in a very short period of time. And health system have to make urgent decision to be able to react to this situation. And all this situation they have to make decision also under a media pressure. Added to all these factors due to the lack of knowledge of this new disease we are facing, all systems had to adapt themselves to the management of the disease itself and to respond. The response in the beginning was probabilistic, with the probabilistic treatment, with some measure like worldwide lockdown, like barrier gesture to manage this disease. But the only hope left was the vaccination with the safe and efficient vaccine that we have now to use in our countries. So the vaccination is the last solution that remains in this situation, in this general context, and it has been decided to vaccinate the worldwide population. This is the first time in the history of medicine that we have to give the same health product into the worldwide population in the very short time of period time. And the countries and all health systems in the countries have to be prepared to ensure a vaccine safety and to ensure a patient safety during this vaccination period, to develop a risk minimization plan and to adapt their situation to give the safe vaccine with the safe procedure of vaccination and to ensure a general safe vaccination in their country. All this vaccination aims to have this collective immunity and to protect against a contamination for the COVID-19 vaccine, or at least against a serious form of this disease. So it is important to highlight this fact that there is no product used for diagnosis, for treatment, for prevention with no risk. So the risk zero does not exist, and this risk identified and this harm normally is multifactorial. So the systems, the health systems and the pharmacovigilance system have to assess the risk and to detect what is all the risk factor that can lead to this defined harm, and to keep in mind that the most important thing is to keep this risk-benefit balance always positive, and to keep and to enhance and to promote patient safety. So the pharmacovigilance concept are based on 4 foundations, and all this foundation aims to ensure a patient safety. So for this vaccination, the foundation are in the pharmacovigilance of vaccine, of COVID-19 vaccine, is to ensure a safety monitoring of data when we vaccinate population, to put in place a risk management plan, to be proactive, to have this proactive pharmacovigilance to react earlier in case of harm, to be transparent, especially now with the large spread of information via social media and media in general. And so we have to communicate with the population to be clear about what we collect in the system of pharmacovigilance. And also we need the engagement of all the stakeholders involved in this vaccination process. So the first part is the safety monitoring, and it's the most important part, because with this safety monitoring, we can collect information, we can assess the identify signals, safety signals, and we can put in place measure to minimize the risk. So this vaccine pharmacovigilance strategy within the country have to be parts and have to be involved earlier in the global national strategy against the COVID-19 as disease, and also in the global vaccination strategy in the country. And within the country to ensure this good pharmacovigilance system and good monitoring strategy, we have to strengthen the national reporting system by putting in place adapted reporting form for the COVID-19 vaccine, to strengthen the reporting means to facilitate the flow of reporting for the healthcare professional, but also for the population. And also this pharmacovigilance strategy have to put in place this risk minimization plan to be proactive in the prevention, management, and the investigation of the serious AFI that we expect to receive after vaccination, and also the adverse event of special interest identified for this vaccine. In the meantime, we have to strengthen the capacity building and to do some training for all healthcare professionals to ensure their engagement for this patient safety culture, and to their engagement to for the culture of reporting AFI, and to set up, and it's not easy to set up a good communication plan and communication strategy in this COVID vaccination within the country. So there is some, for the process of pharmacovigilance from the collection, we know that each vigilance is based on the specific process, from the collection of data to the risk minimization action to put in place adapted to the identified risk during the process. And this process is impacted by some factors during this period of vaccination of COVID-19, and two main major particularities is the lack of human resources to deal with a huge number of AFI that we are receiving or in the vaccination, because we are vaccinating a large number of population. And in the meantime, with the lack of knowledge of some specific AFI that we can expect after a new vaccine, after the introduction of the new vaccine in the market. So there is some adaptation to put in place, and some improvement to improve each step of the process. For example, to collect a good quality of data, we have to be prepared to receive a large volume of adverse events, and to adapt our collecting means, our reporting flow, and so on. Also, we have to train national pharmacovigilance people, but also a new healthcare that we can engage in this pharmacovigilance and this vaccine surveillance within the country, to be able to analyze information, to put information in the database, to detect signal at regional level, at national level, but also to be part of the group of experts to analyze, to investigate a serious AFI at a regional level. Also, the second part is in this pharmacovigilance strategy, in this global pharmacovigilance strategy, it's to be proactive. For that, we have to put in place within the country an adapted risk management plan. So the risk management plan is defined as a set of pharmacovigilance and intervention activities that give us this a proactive approach in pharmacovigilance to better characterize, identify AFI and the risk due to the vaccine or the drug, to obtain missing information that we cannot get after clinical or preclinical trials, and especially for this COVID-19 vaccine. So the objective of the risk management plan is to collect and analyze all adverse events in order to implement early and the rapid action to prevent them and to minimize the impact of the risk identified. So this risk management process have to follow some steps. The first one is to identify the risk, and for that we have to collect a good quality of information regarding the AE5 for vaccination, and to identify the risk, the triggers of the risk within our population and the consequences of this risk in the specific population. For example, now we are vaccinating pregnant women, we are vaccinating children, so we have to detect what are the different risk factors for a specific population that can lead to the occurrence of specific AE5 or serious AE5 for specific vaccine or targeted population. After that, we have to assess the risk and to assess all the risk factors identified for the occurrence of this risk, and to put in place, according to what we get from this assessment, to put in place adapted risk minimization action to prevent or to mitigate this identified harm. So to assess this risk factor, we can use this Ishikawa diagram to assess all the system, all the health system, to define and to identify where is the gap and the need to prevent the occurrence of the AE5 during the vaccination. For example, the lack of training of healthcare professionals, the lack of quality of the vaccine, the improvement of the studies of pharmacoepidemiology, and the other situation that we can change to prevent the occurrence of this risk for the population. The third part, and the very important part in this context of COVID-19 vaccination, is the transparency and the communication with the population. And for that, because we are in an exceptional vaccination campaign, because the size of the population in each country that we have to vaccinate is very large, and we have this urgent nature, this stressful context, and we vaccinate a lot of people, we have to put in place a communication plan with an expert group for the communication. And this communication must redefine the role of health worker and present immunization as the standard, and to explain that this is the only way to eradicate the COVID-19 disease and to come back to our previous life. This communication plan has to be divided on two levels. The first one is to make healthcare professionals to accept the vaccination campaign. This is the first step in this communication plan. So they have to be informed about the vaccine, about the modality of vaccination, how, when, and who will be vaccinated, and all the strategy could be explained to all the healthcare professionals involved in the vaccination, and to inform on the tools put in place to ensure this monitoring vaccination. So to share the reporting form, the reporting flow, the reporting means, how to analyze, how to share information at national level. After that, we have to communicate also on AE5 and to reassure about the pharmacovigilance system, because the population need to know that the country have a good monitoring system to follow the safety use of the vaccination, and to provide also the periodic report on AE5 with information on safety profile to the regulatory authority, but also to the population, and to know how to react to the national or international alert and national health crisis. We have to support the vaccination campaign, giving the key message, like it's we are using the safe vaccine. It's the only solution now to avoid this pandemic and to go through outside this pandemic. And in case of AFI, we have to explain before starting the vaccination or during the vaccination of the population that the large number of AFI that we are expecting are minor. And if we have some serious AFI, we have all the system to take in charge this population who will present some serious or specific AFI. And we have to explain that the pharmacovigilance system is efficient and strengthened to support this vaccination, this exceptional vaccination campaign. And also we have to put in place some plan to manage some crisis, some health crisis coming from the international or from the national level. And we leave one crisis regarding the thromboembolic syndrome with AstraZeneca, and all countries have to be prepared to respond to this type of crisis and to reassure, to anticipate, to explain what happened outside the country and in the country, and to regularly monitor international information and news to be prepared to respond to this crisis. So the goal of this communication plan in general and crisis communication in particular is to inform without alarming the population. The last one is to engage and to improve this culture of reporting and of patient safety near all the healthcare professionals and all the stakeholders involved in the vaccination, and also to obtain this regarding the AFI during the vaccination. So I will just give some information regarding the Moroccan experience. We start in Morocco the vaccination in the 28th of January, and we had the strategy to vaccinate different population. And now we start vaccinating all eligible persons to the vaccination with age 12 years and more. So we had some contraindication. In the beginning, it was contraindicated to pregnant women and breastfeeding women, but we start this vaccination 2 weeks ago. And now we keep the 3 contraindication: the anaphylactic shock or angioedema to any health product, people who have had an allergic reaction to the first dose, they cannot get the second dose, and people with active ongoing disease. So these contraindications are very different from a country to another. So each country have to adapt the strategy of vaccination according to this, to the recommendation they have from the global strategy of vaccination in the country. So in Morocco, we have a pharmacovigilance system operational for 30 years, and it's made available to this campaign. We put in place a real management plan with the collaboration of the Ministry of Health to strengthen the pharmacovigilance system since the beginning of the COVID-19 and after with when we start the vaccination. And PV system has been evaluated before the vaccination system to be ready to meet the challenge of the COVID-19 vaccination and surveillance. And also specific needs have been identified to be able to ensure this surveillance for COVID-19 vaccination. So for the national vaccination strategy involved pharmacovigilance since the beginning, and we had many circular and law that obligate to report AFI following COVID-19 vaccination, to designate some PV focal points at regional and at hospital level. So we collect information from, we use this PV focal point as sentinel sites to collect EFI. Also, we had one circular defining the roles of doctor in vaccination center in the field of pharmacovigilance, how to detect EFI, how to collect, how to report EFI. Also, in each hospital, we design one expert group with multidisciplinary specialties to be able to investigate specific EFI, and we organize the monitoring of EFI at regional and national level. Also, we did some session of training and capacity building for vaccine vigilance for all healthcare professionals involved in the vaccination within the country. And we reorganized the national PV work. We had this 24/7 free pharmacovigilance phone to receive EFI from healthcare professionals. And we designate at the national level for each system organ classification of EFI, one person who had to analyze, to investigate, to follow up, and to give this weekly report on the specific EFI. So it's a big reorganization at the national level, but we have a good result with that. And also we set up the national EFI application reporting for the population, and now more than 70% of our cases comes from this application. And all this action were put in place to ensure vaccine safety and patient safety, and to have this exhaustive collection of EFI to analyze data and to be able to react early. So this is the workflow in Morocco, and it's all the cases reported within the country are directly reported to the national center, and we can analyze, we can produce the report, and we can put in place a national risk management action, minimization action. We have this weekly report that we share with the Ministry of Health, with the program, with WHO Geneva, with WHO MENA region, and is discussed weekly with the Central Committee of Immunization. So now, regarding the results, it's the first time for us to be at the top reporters countries regarding the COVID-19 vaccine. So our data from Morocco represent 1.4% of the global data of vaccine, and within the Middle East region, we are the first reporter with almost 50% of cases reported. So now we are we have 30,000 cases. Just for information, before the COVID-19 vaccination, we received about 30 cases a year, and now in 9 months of vaccination, we received the equivalent of 10 years of pharmacovigilance as number of EFI. So it's we need, of course, more human resources to analyze all this data, and we are improving this part of the pharmacovigilance system. So during the campaign, and especially in the beginning of this vaccination campaign, we received some immunization error regarding the administration to pregnant women, because it was contraindicated in the beginning. And also some people received 2 doses at the same time, or with non-observance of the interval between the 2 doses, and other situation, for example, the manipulation error with the projection of the vaccine in the eye of the nurse. And after that, after receiving the first immunization error, we put in place some procedure and to prevent the recurrence of the similar immunization errors. So this is some example of the communication in Morocco. So we communicate in the media, on the television and the paper media also to give the information, the right information about the vaccination campaign. So to conclude, I have just a few messages concerning this vaccination campaign. So we have the COVID-19 vaccination worldwide is a good opportunity to strengthen any existing pharmacovigilance system, or to put in place an efficient one if when it's lacking. So to enhance the awareness, the culture of reporting, and to improve patient safety within the country. So it is really a good opportunity to develop a pharmacovigilance within the countries. So each country, regardless to the level of the performance of its pharmacovigilance system, has the duty to develop a clear vaccination strategy surveillance, including a proactive pharmacovigilance by putting in place a risk management plan. And also, each country should share data at the global level with VGBase, show database, to participate in this international effort to define the safety profile of this new vaccine. And thank you very much for your attention. This is the hashtag for the Safety Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huda. Very nice talk, very nice presentation. I really had a lot of ideas and during your presentation. Very interesting topic, especially for this second session for our day. I remember last week we have more like 30,000 people, over 30,000 people joining us by Synchronec and also recording session, because of the disseminating of this information, and hope to continue with this successful promotion of medication safety every year. I have a lot of questions from your talk, especially the experience of having different vaccines. You have a good combination of vaccine with different safety that we really need to focus about, especially when we talk about the pregnant woman now and the woman health in general, and also the attention of the having vaccinating in some countries, the adolescents, and now even younger than 12 age of years. So there's all these questions that we have. We will discuss them during the discussion from the audience. Thank you, Dr. very much. So now we'll go to another expert in the area. So I want to introduce to you Dr. Sameh Zubaydi, who is Associate Professor of Pharmacology and Therapeutics in College of Pharmacy, University of Jordan, one of the top universities in the area. Dr. Sameh will talk about a very, very important, and I believe is a missing and not giving more attention in area of safety, which is antidepressant use during pregnancy. Really important topic. Dr. Sameh, as I mentioned, is Associate Professor of Pharmacology and Therapeutics. He's a founder of Acting Director of University of Jordan Pharmacovigilance Office. He's also a member of the National Pharmacovigilance and Affairs events following immunization with COVID-19 vaccine review committee in Jordan. He also has contributed in several committees since his experience in safety and also pharmacology at Jordanian Food and Drug Administration, such as, for example, health hazard evaluation, drug registration, clinical study committee, and etc. He's also, we're really happy to have him as an active member in the ISoP Middle East Chapter Scientific Committee. He's also a part of local organization committee of ISoP 2021 annual meeting that will be held in Muscat, and hopefully I will see all of you in Muscat in just 2 months. He's also part of WHO Global Patient Safety Network. Dr. Sameh, with no further ado, please The floor is yours.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Dr. Tamer, for the kind words and the introduction. I think possibly we are running quite late, so I have to speed up my presentation. Anyway, I will be talking about the antidepressant drug use during pregnancy. And I think, first of all, can you see my slides? Are they clear? Yeah, okay. To start with, first of all, okay, oops. Okay, I think following the WHO theme for the 2021 patient safety, World's Patient Safety Day, which focus particularly on maternal health, I thought it would be interesting to discuss the maternal mental health, particularly the use of antidepressant medication. As we know that physiological, hormonal, and psychological changes associated with pregnancy could increase the probability of mental and emotional changes, which can result in a wide range of mental illnesses, in particular depression and anxiety. According to several statistics worldwide, almost 10% of pregnant women experience a mental disorder, particularly depression, and the numbers are increasing. In the past 20 years, they increased almost the double, and there is regional and differences in the prevalence of depression and mental illnesses among pregnant women. Now, possibly one of the issues that are related to mental illnesses, particularly in women, that it is common and frequently affected. And we know that overall in the general population, the prevalence of depression among women is higher than male. And pregnancy itself create another issue which could increase the likelihood and prevalence of depression among pregnant women. The problem with depression is mainly it is associated with several outcomes to the mother and to the offspring themselves during the fetal, neonatal, and possibly afterward. Possibly as well, one of the main issues associated with maternal and mental health is the high prevalence of suicide, which mainly some studies estimate to be an outcome that happens in the prenatal phase among 1 out of 4 female, and it is associated with significant financial outcomes to the health system, which has been estimated in the UK to be approaching £8.1 billion. Now, what about depression? Depression is one of the most common mental illnesses that are associated or very common in pregnant women, possibly during the pregnancy and possibly for up to 1 year after delivery. The problem with depression is simply, as I said previously, that the condition is underestimated, undiagnosed in most of the cases, particularly even in developed countries. I think the condition will be even more complicated in developing countries and low middle income countries. Actually, the prevalence of depression varies considerably from one population to another. It could range between 14 to 23% of pregnant women could experience a depressive disorder. Now, there are several mainly factors that could increase the risk of depression during the pregnancy. Some of these factors are lifelong factors like poverty, domestic violence, sexual abuse, alcohol and substance abuse, stressful life, which can, as we can say, that they exhibit differences from one female to another, from one region to another, and also the contribution of socioeconomic disadvantages, particularly in low-income countries. And possibly the prevalence could be higher in low countries compared to middle countries and compared to even more high-income or more developed countries as well. And as well, if we look, this is mainly at the time of pregnancy. And also we have to focus that we have a problem with the screening of depression in pregnant women, particularly in countries with limited access to healthcare facilities. Now, another issues related to the pregnancy is the need to initiate antidepressant medication or treatment, and the problem that is related to the relapse rate after discontinuation of medicine, which has been estimated to be between 50 to 75%. Some females mainly remain symptomatic and they have to resume the medication after pregnancy. And as I said previously, most of the conditions are undetected and undertreated. What about the use of antidepressant medication? Antidepressant medication are proved to be effective in the treatment of depression in adults, as we know, based on the evidence. However, despite that, the prevalence of antidepressant use during pregnancy varies considerably depending on the community, between 1.8 to 7.3, taking into consideration that the numbers of depressed female could range between 10 to 15%. This means that possibly there is a problem with inability or not able to receive the treatment for various reasons, either related to socio-economic factors, accessibility to medicine, or unwilling to receive medication, particularly as a result of fear during that pregnancy. Now, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the SSRIs, are the most commonly used agents for the treatment of depression worldwide, in particular in the case of pregnant women. The estimation varies considerably depending from one community to other, depending on the social acceptance and the accessibility to the medicine. It can be estimated of about 2 to 3% in Europe, 4 to 10% of North America, and in Canada, it ranges between about 4.5 to 5%. Now, the numbers are increasing gradually with time as the prevalence of depression during the pregnancy increases. Now, when it comes to the safety of antidepressant medication, especially in particular during the depression, we have to consider the outcomes, the adverse outcomes or adverse effects associated with an antidepressant medication, not only on the fetal or at the neonatal level, as well, we should consider these adverse events on the maternal. So we have to divide that the antidepressants which are received by the mother or the pregnant woman will affect the pregnancy itself, and it will have an effect during the fetal development. And this varies considerably depending on the stage of pregnancy and the severity of the depression condition and concomitant cofactors that exist in the female. Now, pre the 2005, it was estimated that antidepressant drugs are safe and they can be used without any restriction during pregnancy, until 2005, where there is a number of reports indicating an increase of risk of cardiac malformation, especially atrial septal defect and right ventricular outflow tract obstruction in infants whom mother has exposed to a drug paroxetine during the pregnancy. This will lead that the US FDA changed the classification of paroxetine from category C to category D. With regard to other antidepressant medication, conflicting results exist in the literature, as we'll see later on. When it comes to the treatment of depression and using antidepressant medication, as I said previously, in pharmacovigilance, always it is important to ensure that there is a positive benefit-risk balance for antidepressant medication during the pregnancy. I tried here to summarize what are the benefits and the risks associated with antidepressant medications. The benefits mainly are related to treating the depression, and it is related that when depression is untreated, this can lead to significant outcomes like premature death of the infant, poor fetal outcome, preterm birth, low birth weight, neurodevelopment problems in the offspring, etc. And on the other hand, we have to consider the risks in that case, which affects both the mother and the fetus or the neonates at this level, depending on the age. And we will discuss them later on, like, for example, the increased of risk of spontaneous abortion, major congenital malformation, prematurity, low birth weight, neonatal withdrawal. We can notice here that some of the benefits and the risks, they are overlapping. For example, some of the effects of the antidepressant medication, like for example, the pregnancy outcomes are as well, they are associated with depression, and as well they can exacerbated by the antidepressant medication. So in this case, sometimes it is very difficult to establish a causal relationship between the antidepressant medication and the outcome in the pregnant woman. But what we know that Antidepressant medications mainly have significant outcome. The relapse rate will increase significantly following the discontinuation of antidepressants. So they provide significant therapeutic advantages. Now, when it comes to antidepressant drug use during pregnancy and the safety outcomes, I tried to classify them according to 4 categories. First category is related to pregnancy complication. Second category, which has been investigated extensively, which were the congenital anomalies, in particular focus on the cardiovascular or the cardiac congenital anomalies, neurodevelopment effects, and neonatal effects. And both actually still we have conflicting, although antidepressants are among the most commonly investigated agents when it comes to safety during the pregnancy, we still have conflicting evidences regarding the benefits and regarding the risk of antidepressant during pregnancy. Now, when it comes to pregnancy complications, these include spontaneous abortion, intrauterine fetal death, and preterm delivery and intrauterine growth restriction. Again, in the literature, there are conflicting findings. Some studies a strong association or a marginal association between the use of antidepressant medication, and particularly the most commonly studied antidepressant medications are the SSRI, in particularly the most commonly prescribed agents, which are at that time paroxetine, fluoxetine, and sertraline, and as well the use of antidepressant and the risk of pregnancy complication. Possibly this mainly could be attributed that confounders by underlying psychiatric disorder in the woman could, in this case, increase the risk of pregnancy complications. Itself, depression can increase the risk of spontaneous abortion, intrauterine fetal death, and preterm delivery. So these are the outcomes of depression and could be as well caused by the medication. So taking into consideration these confounders could possibly reduce the effect of antidepressant medication of pregnancy on pregnancy complications. So it is very difficult sometimes because of the differences in the study design, differences in the confounding factors that they took into consideration when analyzing the data. The second part is the neonatal effects, which may include poor neonatal adaptation and persistent pulmonary hypertension of the newborn, which can appear several days after the birth. Well, this sometimes could increase the risk of neonatal admission to the ICU. And this mainly highlights the importance of the need for careful monitoring the babies that are delivered from women who were on antidepressant medication during the pregnancy. So it is important in this case that immediate discharge of the hospital is not recommended. There should be maintained for some time, few days, in order to ensure the diagnosis and to ensure the well-being of the neonates after the delivery. And the third issue is the neurodevelopment effect, which in particular related to the antidepressant medication, which mainly related to that antidepressant medication, they can cross the blood-brain barrier, and as a result, they can affect the nervous system of the fetus. A wide range of neurodevelopmental effects. Some of them, these effects mainly occurs immediately, but most of them, they are delayed in terms of their onset. They occur at later or stages of childhood, even during adulthood, including the autism spectrum disorder. In this case, the risk is highly associated with the use of antidepressant during the second and third trimester. Unfortunately, it is very difficult to establish a causal relationship because most of these neurodevelopment effects, particularly the autism spectrum disorder, they may develop at a later stage, which require possibly a long-term follow-up, which is impossible in such cases. Anyway, it is important to know that these neurodevelopment effects mainly are associated with the use of antidepressant agents if they occur during the second and third trimester of pregnancy. Now, the most commonly investigated outcomes related to the use of antidepressant medication is the congenital anomalies. As I said previously, paroxetine in 2005, the pregnant category was changed from C to D related to reports that the drug can cause cardiac side effects. This mainly are associated, or these congenital anomalies are the most extensively studied pregnancy outcome associated with antidepressant. There are differences in terms of the study design. Some studies, they use pregnancy cohort database, systematic reviews, or congenital anomalies registries. All of them, they are mainly utilized in order to find an association between the antidepressant drug use and congenital anomalies. Most of these studies, actually, they focused on the SSRI and the SNRI to a lesser extent. However, there is a limited information in the availability of the individual antidepressant agents and specific birth defect. Most of the focus was on paroxetine and possibly sertraline, but for example, other agents, possibly the number of evidences are fewer. For example, this is the data I got from the US FDA adverse event reporting system between the first quarter of 2010 and the fourth quarter of 2016. And as we can see, overall, the substantial fraction of primary cases are mainly related to cardiovascular congenital anomalies, whereas other congenital anomalies, according to the ICD-10 classification, the prevalence varies considerably. This is mainly taking into consideration the entire SSRI used for the treatment of depression. When it comes to an individual agents, possibly there is a differences in terms of the prevalence. For example, the higher incidence are with paroxetine for both the cardiac and non-cardiac. Paroxetine represent about 62% of the overall reported cardiac congenital anomalies in the database. Other antidepressant agents varies considerably depending on the prevalence of the antidepressant. I believe paroxetine, this is simply because this drug has been reported that it causes cardiac outcomes, septal heart defect in the neonates. So there an increasing number of reports related caused to that. I think the proportionality of the differences of the numbers are mainly related to the fact that the prescription of these agents varies considerably, and sometimes they focus on the most frequently prescribed agents in the population. Now, what is the gap? Why still until now, despite the enormous studies that have been conducted on the safety of antidepressant, why there is a gap in our knowledge? Simply because these studies, which are reporting conflicting results, some studies saying there is association, marginal association, or significant association, they exhibit methodological differences. When it comes mainly to randomized control trials, in randomized control trials, which is the ideal study design to find an evidence or to find a relationship, most of the pregnant women are excluded from these studies. So this will add a difficulty in determining the causal relationship between the different antidepressant and different outcomes during the pregnancy. Some of these congenital anomalies or outcomes are very rare and very difficult to diagnose. As I said previously, depression is underdiagnosed during the pregnancy. As well, these studies sometimes they fail to take into contribution the several variables and several confounders, like, for example, maternal diseases, other maternal illnesses, smoking status, which could increase the risk of congenital anomalies, other concomitant medications, which can be teratogenic, and the exposure pattern to the medication. Where the female, did they use the medication during the pregnancy, during the first or third trimester? Have they used the medication before the pregnancy, etc. Exposure trimester is important. When it comes to congenital anomalies, we know that the exposure, particularly during the first trimester, is significantly associated, or possibly it could increase the likelihood of congenital anomalies. But when it comes to neurodevelopment and behavioral effects, it could mean that later exposure during the pregnancy. And some studies, they indicate possibly the exposure before the pregnancy could increase the risk of these outcomes. And as well, it is important to establish the effect of individual drugs and doses. Possibly the doses of the drugs, differences in the doses that are used could increase the likelihood. For example, paroxetine over 25 milligram, most of the studies found they found a strong association with paroxetine, and pregnancy outcomes are related to higher doses. So sometimes it is very difficult to categorize based on the doses and taking into consideration the effect of individual agents. So in conclusion, I would like to say that mental health is fundamental to achieving global health targets relating to women and children, and it is important to look at the implication of different antidepressants on the mother and offspring, particularly when it comes to congenital and cardiac congenital anomalies. And again, any small increase in the risk, absolute risk, would influence our decision on the therapy and care pathway. So when it comes to antidepressant, we have to remember that it will not only affect the mother, it will affect the offspring, and we don't know when it will affect the offspring. Sometimes it could affect immediately after delivery, and sometimes it may take a long time, particularly when it comes to autism disorder, to be developed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. Very nice talk, important talk. It's really important to understand the safety of antidepressants. It's really a needy area that needs to be covered. You mentioned some of your points about the role of clinical trial that are not there, the importance of the trimester, and also the different medication and different risk, and a lot of gaps in this area. So again, thank you so much, and for the audience, and thank you so much. Really, a very great number of people attending this session. So please continue to write your question. If you have any question in the chat pod, we'll have the Q&A session right now. I would like to invite the speakers to open their camera and also to start the question, because I have a lot of questions actually. So I will start with the Dr. Huda for the as first question. Dr. Huda, you mentioned that I mean, during your talk about the strategy and the involvement of the pharmacovigilance system and in the national immunization strategy, which is, I believe, it's sometimes, especially in the case of vaccine, it's not really, I mean, there are other departments working in vaccine from the beginning at the end. Also, there is a big important role of the BV in that. So your involvement as a strategy, was it as a request by the other department, which is usually Ministry of Health in your situation and other different situation, or this was an initiative by the pharmacovigilance department at Morocco, since you have different initiatives? So which one was?
So in the beginning of the COVID-19 and the use of the treatment of COVID-19, the pharmacovigilance was a part of the strategy against the COVID-19 by the treatments in the beginning and after for the vaccination. And it was an initiative of the pharmacovigilance department of the pharmacovigilance system to be part, since the start of this pandemic, to be part of the health strategy and to be a part of all the commission, the decision at the decisional level. For example, every week we have our representative in this global commission of vaccination to decide how to deal with the vaccination within the country, and they take our results on the safety surveillance to change the strategy and to adapt the strategy depending on the results. So it was really a pharmacovigilance initiative, but all the regulatory system and health system was prepared with the 30 years of pharmacovigilance in Morocco. There is some culture of pharmacovigilance in Morocco. So it was a good.
Huda. So you're part of bigger committee. So let's say, did always take your like advice or decision, meaning always like, let's say 80%, 70% of your advice.
Sorry, for the advice?
The recommendation, like when you recommended them, yeah.
Yes, yeah. Normally, we can go with some recommendation, and it's taken in consideration fully by the Commission. So they need our data to have this recommendation. So it's very important to work in collaboration with the Commission.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Huda. It's very nice effort. So I'll actually ask one by one because I have list of questions that got. Dr. Sameh, you mentioned in your presentation, RCT is not really an option to test for safety of antidepressant. We know pregnant women are not part of the clinical trials. So as someone who's working in BV, what we need to do, what we should do to like tell people about safety of this medication. So what do you recommend? So your advisor to the pharmacovigilance within GFDA, or you're helping them. Your sound mute, Dr. Sameh. Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Thamer. Well, this is a good question. Actually, possibly most of the data that comes from related to the antidepressant safety during the pregnancy, the safety of antidepressant medication, they mainly came from developed countries. So possibly, and the prevalence could vary considerably depending on socio-demographics, etc. So when it comes to the safety of this medication, one of the issues that we need to improve our understanding of mental health, and possibly one of the issues is to screen those females that we think that possibly at high risk of developing depression. And possibly, again, as Dr. Huda mentioned, when it comes to the COVID-19, there should be a communication plan when it comes to the safety of medication. Particularly, I think it is part of their regular duties. And actually to establish the infrastructures. For example, we don't have a pregnancy cohort database or congenital or pregnant registries, at least in my country. So these all together, with frequent monitoring to the female patients with depression during to their visits to their physician, this all together would improve and enhance the awareness of the public to the issue.
Thank you, Dr. Sameh. Let me have a question to Dr. Huda. So, Dr. Huda, there is a question from the audience about the what were the challenges that faced Morocco during the implementation of the BV plan regarding anti-COVID-19 vaccines? So, what the challenges that we faced during implementation of the BV plan with respect to COVID-19 vaccines?
So the first challenge was the lack of human resources, because we need a huge number of people to work in this PV strategy, because the vaccination was very large, and we start with the very large number of vaccinees. And the first one was the human resources and the lack of training, and we didn't have a lot of time to train all healthcare professionals and to prepare this pharmacovigilance vaccination strategy. So it was done, but it was during the very short time, with people working in the vaccination sites. So it was very difficult to engage people to follow some training to be able to do this vaccine surveillance. And in the meantime, the second challenge was to enhance the engagement of the population to send the AFI using the application. So they start timidly to use the application, but after that we start receiving receiving more than 2,000 cases a week. So the engagement was increased with the vaccination campaign. So this was the two first challenge, and the second one is to have this expert committee at regional level to be able to investigate correctly and to do this right investigation for the serious AFI we received. So it was a little bit difficult to train them on how to investigate an AFI, how to collect information near the population or near the patient who experienced the AFI, the serious or special interest AFI. And the third one was the communication with the population regarding some health crisis outside Morocco. And when it's come to Morocco with some social media information, sometimes it's the wrong information, and we have to communicate to reassure the population and to increase this adherence to the vaccination campaign within the population.
Very nice experience, Dr. Huda. I have another question actually about the vaccine and the risk and the communication, but I want to ask Dr. Sameh about the. You mentioned the registry. That's the registry, the importance of registry to assess, since we don't have clinical trials assessing the evaluating in details the risk of antidepressants during pregnancy. We know that's many pregnancies and all the risk that's associated with these drugs. So, as a rule of active surveillance and pharmacovigilance, do you recommend to have a specific registry? We know they have some registry for pregnancy. Do you recommend to have disease registry or have drug registry for antidepressants with the pregnancy? Do you think it's cost effective? So what is your call in this regard?
Well, I prefer to have both, actually. This is the ideal situation, but unfortunately it is very difficult. Well, I believe that since most of the pregnant women, they will receive SSRI, or those who are depression. So I think we will focus on the depression itself, depression registries. I think both are the same, but the problem is to build up the capacity, and depending on the limited resources that are available in our countries. Definitely either will work, and I think we ideally should have both, but it is very difficult depending on the resources.
Thank you, Dr. Sameh. Dr. Huda, about we know that some risk that came from these vaccines, the vector virus vaccine, which we know it as Oxford AstraZeneca and Janssen. Based on your presentation, you have these vaccines, and also the mRNA vaccine with the risk with myocarditis, and the vaccine of the AstraZeneca with the vaccine-induced thrombocytopenia. And this is considered like a health crisis, that you need the vaccine, but also there is a risk. People are afraid. And we know that people already, some of them don't want to get vaccinated. So how you communicate? What is the way of communication in such a situation? What do you guys do, Dr. Huda?
So, as I said, we have. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. So when we have this health crisis coming to the country, we have to be prepared with a good communication plan. And for that, what we have to do, we have to look for all information from International Health Agency and to be prepared to respond to our population, because they are aware about what's happening now outside the country with all the media we get within the country. And we have to be prepared to ensure to media to put in place a good surveillance system targeted to this specific problem and to be able to communicate correctly with the right message to our population. If we have the similar cases, we have to be clear and to say, yes, we have these cases, it's rare, and we are investigating this relationship between the vaccine and the occurrence of the AFI. We don't have to hide the information from the population, but we have to explain that our system is strong enough to be able to put in place action in our population within our country, and we don't have to follow the decision to depending on the decision of Europe or other. For AstraZeneca and thromboembolic, there was a change of the age group, targeted age group in Europe, in France, for example, and population in Morocco asks why the targeted group population in Morocco, and we explain clearly that we don't get this type of AFI and we don't have the same problem in our country. So just to be clear and to respond with transparency to the population, but also to be prepared with the right message and the right information from the international health issues.
Very nice, Dr. Huda. We really want to focus on communication. Communication is really a major role in delivering our messages, either in the COVID-19 vaccine or even in safety in general. Go to Dr. Fortunately, we're running out of time, but I'll go to Dr. Sameh, and also it was mentioned by Dr. Huda. You mentioned about data, sharing data during both of your presentation. I don't know if you guys talk to each other to talk about this point, but you both seem that there is a concern of sharing data. So, and let's talk with Dr. Sameh, an area of like either antidepressants in a pregnant woman or any medication in a pregnant woman. What is your opinion about what is the difficulty of sharing data between like either institution inside the country or even multiple country? And is it important to share data?
Thank you for this question. Actually, yes, definitely, this is important to share the data. Simply because the maturity of pharmacovigilance system differs from one country to another. So definitely those that have mature pharmacovigilance system, they have good data, they can share it with others. So this will increase our global understanding of PV and safety, possibly for drugs or vaccines. As you know, some countries possibly by law, they have to share the data. For example, in the FDA, they share the data. And I got some of the two tables I got from in my presentation where I got the data from the US FDA. So they share the data. Possibly when it comes to our countries, we have two issues when it comes to share the data. Possibly we don't have good culture of the importance of sharing the data and making it available for researcher or for the public, or to share the data at global level in order to help to improve the safety. And possibly one of the issues possibly we have that sometimes the data we have is incomplete, or either there's an issues related to the quality of data, which makes the data is very difficult to share. Sometimes you need to follow up on the cases, and sometimes the accessibility of the data is not you don't find the data in the same place or in the same server on the same location. So you have to look for different in order to build up a complete set of data. So these are the obstacles in order to bringing all the data together, particularly when it comes to our countries.
Excellent. I will ask the same question, Dr. Huda, and I have another question for you, but I want to hear from you, Dr. Huda, before I ask you this next question about the importance of sharing data. You mentioned that during your presentation.
Yes. Yes, it's very important to share information, to have quickly. This is the goal of the pharmacovigilance, to centralize the data at national level, at regional level, and also at international level. Because when we have information, we cannot, as you know, we cannot signals with a few number of information. But when we collect information from other countries and when we put all the data together, we can have this signal detection with a good quality of information. And specifically for this vaccine, because it's a new vaccine, and we have to define this safety profile quickly. Right? Well, now we are facing the same problem and we are facing the same AFI. So we have to report information at global level to be able to define the safety profile. And it's crucial for the pharmaceutical level.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Huda and Dr. Sam. Very, very important. So, Dr. Huda, during your work in COVID-19 vaccine, and I did some work on as a researcher on COVID-19 vaccine. So from your experience, did you have an exercise, or you put in place any pharmacoepidemiologic studies? I hope it was one of them my study, but did you put in place any pharmacoepidemiology study in area of COVID-19?
Yes, so when we start
Dr. Huda? Okay, I think Dr. Huda has some internet connection. Dr. Sameh, let me ask you until Dr. Huda is back with us. Dr. Sameh, for the as someone expert in pharmacovigilance.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Dr. Huda, can you hear us? We lost a little bit. Okay, we'll come back to you, Dr. Huda. So, Dr. Sameh.
Yes.
So, do you think that, from your experience, as someone working in pharmacovigilance, do you think we have enough studies in area of using of antidepressant and pregnancy, either international or even from our region? Do we need to more work? And if we don't have enough, why?
Well, again, when it comes to our region, possibly we don't have enough data. Possibly the topic of antidepressant or maternal is not yet covered in our region. Possibly I try to ask our colleagues whether they have reported or received anything related to antidepressant during pregnancy, any congenital anomalies we don't have actually. So possibly I think we need more research actually, because the trend of prescribing antidepressant and the outcomes of depression could differ from one region to another. Although bringing all collaborative research between different countries would expand our understanding and our knowledge regarding the safety of antidepressant agents during the pregnancy. So it would be useful to have like a registry, or to have designated studies which mainly involve multiple sites, multiple countries, in order to see what is the effect of the prescription trends. Possibly there is a differences in terms of the prescription of antidepressant, variables, co-founders that exist in different populations, which we need to address in order to better understand the effect of the causality or the relationship between the antidepressant. So still there's a gap, and this gap should be filled by research, either in developed or developing countries as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. I'm not sure if Dr. Huda is back with us because I have another question to Dr. Sam. So, Dr. Huda, are you with us? Okay, Dr. Sam, for the same area, what is the role of pharmaceutical company in the like research or awareness program or scientific program? So I have less than 2 minutes. So if you can answer this question.
Well, I believe pharmaceutical companies are partners when it comes to safety. They make the drugs, they sponsor the studies, they provide the evidence, they monitor the safety of their medication as well. This is their obligation. So definitely they play an important role when it comes to monitoring the safety, either by regulation or by their own responsibility, or because pharmaceutical companies, they have resources possibly better than regulators in some countries. So definitely they will help in expanding the knowledge, monitoring the safety of their products as well.
Thank you. Dr. Huda, you're back with us. I'll go quickly, I have less than a minute. So, Doctor, my question was, did you put any place in pharmacoepidemiology study in area of COVID-19 vaccine during your work? I think I lost Dr. Huda again.
I think she has to leave the meeting and then.
Dr. Huda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but
yeah.
So I think I have a problem.
You
can hear me now? So
I can hear you.
Yes, quickly.
So, yeah. Do you put any pharmacoepidemiology study in place during COVID-19 pandemic, vaccine or in general?
Yes, we just starting our pharmacoepidemiological study regarding the vaccination of pregnant women. We put in place a registry to collect all information, and also for a specific population of children between 12 to 17 years. So this is the two pharmacoepidemiological study we start to follow. And also we are in we start thinking about one genetic pharmacoepidemiological study for a specific AFI with autoimmune disease appearing after vaccination, to find if there is some genetic factors of that lead into the occurrence of this specific AFI.
Thank you so much, Dr. Huda, Dr. Sam. It's really great discussion and conversation, explaining all of these things. I would like to thank all the audience attendees. It was really nobody left the place, and this is give us a good indication that they are enjoying this discussion. So please, we have another session, very important session from our beloved continent in Africa. You will have two from the best experts as well, Dr. Lubna and Dr. Kigoba. The session will start at 2 p.m. UK time, like almost 30 minutes from now. We'll have these speaker, important topics. Please join us there. Remember, if you want to see this again, this webinar or any webinar that's Patient Safety Day that we did or we will do, please go to ISoP Online Facebook account or a YouTube channel. We'll publish or record all this information. And if you have any question, concern, consultation, please, we are here as an International Society for Pharmacovigilance. And I would like to thank people who's really behind this one. Dr. Mira Harrison, the president of ISoP, is always supportive for patient safety. People behind this event, Dr. Angela Caro from Latin America, they really did a great job and organized all of this. And I would like to sincerely thank to Dr. Patricia Zuluaga, who's really coordinating our session. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and we hope that you learn something with us. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.